with, we can go down the line. I'll have you say and spell your first and last name. We can give the shortest summary you can about your interest in comics and, what you love about them, and then, what you're doing for the event. Does that make sense for everybody?
Sounds
We're
great.
going to give one-word answers.
Okay, I can work with it. If you give me a press release, I can make it happen.
Like we're in court, yeah.
Would not be the first time. So, okay. At least from how I'm displayed here, it looks like Ken is up first. So, Ken, can you say and spell your first and last name for me, please? History of comic books, and talk to me about what you're doing for the event.
Yes, Ken Wheaton, KenWheaton. I've been reading comics all my life, been a fan, became a collector, collector, started drawing comics. So I'm a professional comic artist. I work my days in a comic book store, and now I'm running a comic book convention. People say, ironically, when you ask them how they're doing, they're living the dream. Well, I say unequivocally, I am actually living the dream. What I'm doing for the show is, real quick, Mike and I were driving to New Hampshire, 12 hours round trip, and the guy will not stop talking. But what happened was, we were like, why are we driving 12 hours to go to a comic book show when we live in a hotbed of comic books? Rochester's a mecca for comic book reading and collecting and fandom. So we're like, let's put on a show. That's how it happened.
Love it. I do have a quick follow-up. What you said you write? So is it write comics or draw comics? And then what? Talk to me about your work just a little bit. We might circle back, but
Yeah, well, I've drawn a number of Simpsons projects, Simpsons and Futurama and that type of thing. I drew several issues of a Popeye comic book a few years back, and I'm working on a bunch of independent projects. I just drew a comic book cover exclusive for Archie Comics, Chilling Adventures in Sorcery, and it was an exclusive for a local store, Rhinos Comics.
very cool. Get back to that in a second, because that was something that Jeff talked about, and it'd be a nice tie-in. But so many Futurama jokes, and I'll spare you for now. But Jeff, your turn. What do you got for me? Say it, spell it, and the same spiel.
Yep. So I'm Jeff, Jeff, Hirschberg, Hirsch, B as in boy, ERG. So I, like Ken, I grew up in Rochester, and I've been reading comics since I was a little kid. And after college, after graduate school, I lived in New York City and LA for about 15 years and came back to Rochester in 2003. And I've always been a writer. I had a book published on heroes and villains in film and TV about 10 years ago. I have a novel coming out next year. And by day, I'm a film professor. So I teach screenwriting, film and TV criticism at Buffalo State College. I've been doing that for the last 16 years. And after Ken and Mike had that conversation, Mike and I had that conversation too, which is, let's create a comic book show in Rochester that we would want to go to. And that was the birth of Empire Comic Fest. And we're so happy to be doing it and hosting it. And we had a great show over the summer. We're looking forward to Saturday too. And by the way, I'm sorry, one more thing. In 2014, I started a business on the side with my sons, and Nathan is one of them, and he's here.
Okay. But before I forget, so you guys have been having 2-year for how long now? Is this just like your second one, or you've been doing this for a while now?
It's our second show. Collectively, we've been to probably hundreds of comic book conventions. So we sort of took a best of breed approach in creating this one. But this is our second show, and we're going to be doing it twice a year at the JCC.
Beautiful. Nathan, let's go to you. Same spiel when you're ready.
Yeah. Hi. So my name's Nathan Hirschberg, Nathan, also Hirschberg. So yeah, like my dad said, in 2014, we looked in my closet, and he had a couple boxes of old comic books, and we were looking through them, and we're like, whoa, there's actually some value to these, and we're looking them up, and we thought that the collection was worth $20 million, and it wasn't close to that. But we anyway, we started selling them. We said, you know what, this is a great market. This is a lot of fun. It's a good way to make money and just a good way to, you know, read comics and be in this cool, like, you know, cool market, cool industry. So we started buying and selling on auction sites and local shows and this and that, just creating a business. And now we have a nice collection and we sell, and it's great to do this show also, to get a bunch of buyers and sellers together. And we've met Stan Lee. I grew up with the movies, so, you know, I've, you know, always been a big Marvel fan. My brothers too, and so it's been great.
Living the dream.
And for the show, I've been doing, you know, marketing and advertising on social media and different sites, and working with, you know, vendors and buyers that way.
Awesome. Mike, you're up.
So you can spell my name Michael, and last name is Blowers. Comics kind of taught me to start reading back when I was 4 years old, and I was interested in the medium, and, you know, just pursued that passion through school and into college. And I wanted to be a commercial artist, but I realized there wasn't much of a future in commercial art compared to the technology that was emerging at the time. So I got involved in the corporate world. It's my alter ego right now. I work in the corporate business world, and I've always had that passion for what the hobby brings, not just the medium, but everything else that's, you know, associated to it. You know, things like the movies and the TV shows and the culture. So I've traveled to hundreds of conventions over the last probably 30, 35 years now. And I've met every notable person from Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, down to Jim Shooter, all the big names, not to mention all the media stars that now are part of that, you know, the collective, you know, shows and movies. So, you know, as Ken mentioned, we were going to a convention a few months ago, and I've had a couple of failed attempts at bringing together a core group that can get this off of the ground. So one thing led to the next, and I knew Jeff, and Jeff contacted me serendipitously at the same time. And we said, hey, we can make this happen. So what I bring is sort of that business perspective of, you know, how to glue things together, plus the connections to not only the vendors, but some of the, you know, the guests. So we all work very collaboratively. You know, I think Jeff brings his academic perspective to it and some collecting background. Ken brings the creative side with the artistry. And I kind of piece that together with the structure and framework. So I think we all work great and fantastic as a team to make this happen.
I heard earlier, are you on a time crunch? Do you have to get out of here at a certain time?
I got to be traveling in about 4 minutes.
I'll go to you first. You talk about the business side of things. You know, now obviously it's a lot easier now that the JCC is back open to the public and more events are happening. But having been a longtime member of the JCC and Comic Book Convention or Festival or whatever, don't exactly seem like they go hand in hand. What made them a good place for you guys to do this, and what about doing it there works?
So I think the short answer would be, you know, the cost, but also the location, but more importantly, just the physical structure of the building. You know, again, we went back and forth. We bantered about this for a bit, myself, Jeff, and Ken. And, you know, having been to many conventions as a buyer, as an attendee, I can see what works there. You know, having the open space, having the easy accessibility, having the free parking. You know, having stuff downtown is a challenge. You know, people don't want to go to some venue where they got to pay for parking. There's a long distance to walk. When you have family and little kids, especially, you want a family-friendly event. So, you know, the whole facility, this is, you know, I think very well suited for our show. You know, it's got the space, it's got the position, location, cost, all of that. And not to mention, we work with Ralph, the facilities manager, and he's very flexible with, you know, all of our questions and very accommodating, especially. You know, restrictions are a big challenge. If you get into some of the bigger conventions, especially in the cities, you have to involve union laborers. There's policies with traffic, parking. So all over, it's just a fantastic facility.
And obviously big enough to accommodate hundreds of people as well. I'm gonna get you with a couple quick hitters, then you're off the hook. So it is this coming Saturday. It is a one-day event, question mark. If so, what are the hours, ticket price, that sort of thing?
So it is the 13th of November. One of our tenant statements here is we want to make it free and accessible for attendees. So there is no cost to attend. Another big deterrent is you have to drive, you have to pay for parking, then you got to pay fees on top. We want to have that as a long-standing statement of zero cost for the attendees. And the hours are going to be from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Though if you want to attend early, for those people that are really passionate about getting there quick and getting in line or making the best buys, we have an early bird option. So for an additional $20, you can get in at 9 a.m. We're going to donate those proceeds to the Hero Initiative.
Awesome. You're off the hook. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thanks everyone for sticking through that. Just wanted to get through those while he was still on. Ken, I want to go back to you because this all seemed to have stemmed from a 2014 conversation talking about what good comic book conventions are, bringing it back to Rochester, that sort of thing. So when you guys were designing this, putting it together, I mean, we all sort of have. What did you want to make sure that this event had or included that were some of like the best parts of a comic book convention or comic book fair that you wanted to make sure that are included in this event?
Well, I wanted to make sure that there were enough comic books at this comic book show. A lot of shows call themselves comic book shows, and I go and there's very few comic books. I also wanted to have veteran creators, and we couldn't do that for the first time because it was just starting up. But I want to make sure that we have those legendary comic book creators that actually if we don't know them by name, we at least know their work. We know what they've done. Everyone knows what Jim Shooter's done. They may not know him by name, but he succeeded Stan Lee, and he guided Marvel Comics during 1980s renaissance of comic books. So yeah, I wanted a show that I would want to go to and shop at, not just a cosplay parade, not to meet wrestlers, and that's fine. Everything's fine with that. Those multimedia shows are great, but don't call yourself a comic book show. They're fantastic. I love going to them, but for this, I wanted to do something for me.
Cool.
And for my friends that love comics.
Jeff, I'll get to you in just a second about our special guest. We can go a little bit more in depth there, but I want to go to Nathan for a second. Part of the reason that these comic book conventions do have all this multimedia and do have all these people is because that brings in people. But the last time you guys had one of these, hundreds were in attendance, and you're expecting even more this time. And you have your own story about going through your own comic book collection, seeing what's there. From your end, what do you think that this is a show obviously like for comic book people, but a lot of people are coming. So what for you? Why do you think people are so interested in this, and how are you working to find something that's right for everyone there?
I think what Ken brought up with this is a comic show other than just some multimedia show is really what drives a lot of people to come to this. There's a ton of buyers. There's a ton of buyers in Rochester and Buffalo and Syracuse and that whole area to come and buy dollar books or thousands of dollars worth of books. And so that's really what attracts people to our show. And then obviously Jim Shooter coming is another big attraction. So people love to do this. People love to go to the shows and buy and meet other collectors and just see what's there. Sometimes see really valuable books that they've never seen before, or just enjoy the whole presence. Yeah.
Jeff, let's go to you and talk about Jim a little bit. Obviously, that's a pretty big get for you guys to have at this. Having someone who worked with Stan Lee, but not only that, succeeded him. Talk to me about landing Jim as a special guest, and how people, and talk to me about him, and then how can people interact with him once the event gets going.
He is a big get. He's actually 6'9". That's how big a get Jim Shooter is. I think Ken had originally the relationship with Jim's agent, and we contacted Jim's agent and saw that he was available. Sent him the website. And, here's a guy who, as Mike mentioned, succeeded Stan Lee and is very important to this comic book culture, has all the stories, has all these, comes with letters and correspondences from the 70s and 80s that he had with Marvel that really make it very real for people in Rochester who don't normally see people like this. Jim is going to be at a table from about 10 to 5 or so. He's going to be signing comics. He's going to be telling stories. What else is he going to be doing? Maybe I'm missing something.
Photo ops, sketches.
Photo ops.
For being a writer and an editor and a producer and a creator, he draws amazingly well, and he'll charge a little bit, but he'll do little doodles and drawings as well as signing your comics. It's going to be great. He's got a story for everything.
Yeah, another thing is, someone like Jim Shooter connects people my age, people like Ken and Mike and I, to our childhood. And one of the things we should mention is that we grew up in Rochester going to Empire Comics. And the name Empire Comic Fest is, in a way, an homage to that great store, which was one of the first comic book retail stores in the country. And it really helped crystallize this comic book culture that we have and this in upstate New York. And that's one of the reasons why we chose that name as an homage to them.
Great transition to something else I want to ask about. This one's to the room, so feel free, whomever has an idea first, kind of go ahead. Rochester is kind of like a hidden mecca. It seems like everywhere you turn, there's like, oh, this is a guy who worked on The Mandalorian. Like, oh, this is a dude who like worked with Z2 Comics, and it's everywhere. And Ken, your own work itself, I mean, doing something for Archie Comics is some serious legacy stuff. And for you guys, what is it? Why do you think that is? Why do you think Rochester has been able to start and maintain this kind of love of comic books and all the quality it's putting out? And then what does it mean to you guys that you're part of it now? You're putting on this comic book festival and you're a part of it and you're helping to grow. What does it mean to you guys?
I'll just say one thing, which is, in some ways, this comic book culture started in 1940 with Joe Simon, who was a Rochesterian.
Yeah.
Joe Simon and Jack Kirby created Captain America.
Yep.
With that iconic Captain America 1 cover of him punching Hitler in the face, which actually was produced before the United States even entered World War II. So, in a way, that was the precursor to Marvel Comics, being Timely Comics. So, you could say that Joe Simon is the father of comic book culture and comic books, and it emanated from Rochester.
Yeah,
that's one answer.
Yeah. If I can add to that, we did write this up on our website early on, the history of the comic culture here. And there's two other things I wanted to add. One was, we had a very rich and very diverse comic book business structure here in Rochester, more than any other city that I know of. I think at last count, we had 13 comic book shops. And, the Empire Comics stores had started that culture. And we can see the fruition of that now, where so many people in their 30s and 40s and 50s that shopped at those stores growing up, still love the hobby, the passion for the hobby. And the second part of it is, as I was talking to Ken a few months ago, there's a gap. We're between two large cities, Buffalo and Syracuse, and there's not much of that type of a show or venue here. So we decided there was a gap, and we kind of fit in that little niche of, let's fill that void with something that's very comic focused. And, we know we have the audience for it. And I think the success of that has been shown in our first event, where we had overwhelming attendance, and we expect more of the same in the next show.
Yeah.
Cool. Love it. Ken, I just want to circle back to you because not that everyone is in creative, but you are actually a comic book artist in this. I just wanted, to make sure that we kind of answer this part. What do you think it is about Rochester that sort of fosters this level of creativity? Because it's not just in comics, it's in everything. Our music scene is extremely strong, proportionate to the population. Same thing for, any kind of visual art, theater, anything like that. What do you think it is about Rochester that really helps artists and artists such as yourself succeed?
Wow. It's just an amazing city. I don't know what to say except
The
that
water.
it's the water. No, it's just a very creative place to be. I really don't know how to answer that, but yeah, you're right. We have a jazz festival, which is amazing theaters, and I just don't know what it is. It's a great place to be. We are the hidden gem of New York. Go ahead, Mike.
I could probably answer that because I'm not a Rochester native. I moved here 30 years ago from Syracuse, and very different, very industrialized city. Buffalo is very much the same, but Rochester is a very progressive city. Like Ken said, there's a huge music scene. I play guitar. I think, Jeff, you play guitar too, right?
I was going to say, based on the 6-string back there, Nathan might play a little bit too.
Yeah.
Nathan's
So it's funny how the creativity, and that's sort of a common theme amongst all of this. I work in the corporate world, but the culture that this industry brings is such an escapism, and it was really compounded by the COVID quarantine that we had to do. Many businesses said, we're not going to be around in a couple of months. Who needs to have this during this critical juncture? But they flourished. I mean, bookstores, gaming stores, all of the entertainment industry just flourished incredibly well. So it's an testament to the the passion people have for this sort of, a hobby. And we want to provide that ability, people that can get out there. You got your day job, you have struggles with the family and the things with the virus and the quarantine and worried about getting sick. And then you have this, this little island of hope where you can go out there and enjoy this kind of a venue. And we try to make it open to all people. It is very comic focused, but we have the ability to bring in your kids and spouses and other people because we have no cost with the event. And we're trying to add things to the event too to make people interested to come like Jim Shooter. But back to the question you had with creativity here, Rochester is very well known for all the festivals. We have tons of festivals here. And when I moved here in 1990, I was just amazed that, there's so many entertainment venues we have. It's music, it's events, it's, festivals, and we have different, pop-up activities and such. We have a lot of culture in this region. So this is just another part of that. And that creativity expands to all facets of not just our event, but also other, venues like music.
And the rent's not bad. Well, I mean, it was.
Absolutely.
It's getting worse by the second, but it used to not be so bad.
I've looked at many cities, and the rent cost of living here is very affordable. Of course, the history of the big businesses, Kodak and Xerox and such, those brought the financial attributes with that too. So they were able to do this stuff. I mean, if you're in a city like Syracuse and you're working in a blue collar job, you don't have the disposable income to go to these big events. You don't have the ability to build the venues that house these big events. So that financial culture enables, I think, things like this to happen and people to attend them.
Beautiful. Gentlemen, is there anything I didn't ask about that any of you guys would like to add?
Thank you for helping us promote the show.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is a really cool thing. I liked what someone said at one point. I think the Comic-Con has kind of become like a pop culture festival, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not really the same thing as a comic book festival. So I know it's on the website, and I'm sure it's in the press release someplace. I'm going to ask it now anyway. What is the verbiage you guys are using? Is it like comic book festival? Like what exactly is the term that you would describe this as? I just want to make sure I have that.
The Empire Comic Fest.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. It's a comic book show. I don't know. Anything else?
Rochester's premier comic book
that we forgot about?
It's on my t-shirt.
Hey, yeah, nice.
One of the things, Dan, I just want to mention, maybe Nathan could talk a little bit about this show in particular. We have a lot of corporate sponsorship and local advertisers.
Yeah.
And Nathan, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I think that would be of interest to the audience.
Go.
Yeah. So because Ken is a great designer, he was able to create a program guide. And we also have obviously the shirts, and we have different packages for local and national to international big comic book stores. So for example, like the shirts were paid for by a My Comic Book Shop, which is a big huge comic book store online, and we have different advertisements in the program guides and for the signage for the shows. So it's just a great way to help put funds into the show, and also have these have these kind of partners. It's great.
And it keeps money local too.
And keep it free for the attendees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of local businesses who saw this as a great opportunity to get in front of consumers. And Brugger's Bagels, for instance, is donating coffee and bagels and donuts to all of our volunteer staff. We've got local real estate agents and so forth advertising the program guide. We're going to get you a program guide, Dan. Actually, we hope we see you on Saturday.
I will be there. I don't know what time yet, but I will be there. I'll make sure.
I will personally give you a free comic book, and so will Mike.
We can get them in for free too.
And we're going to get you in for free. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a very important statement to make that closing statement you had there, Jeff, is on the back end, it's not very visible, but on the back end, this is really a cooperative event for not just the fans, but also local businesses.
Yeah.
We opened it up, and this is kind of a whiteboard for local businesses to use as they see fit. So we're collaborating on the back end with other people, local businesses, to basically promote their own stores and their the business aspects through our venue.
And the core of that partnership, and I think Mike touched on it earlier, is all the local comic book shops within 10, 20, 30 miles of us are part of this show.
Yeah.
And it really is, so it's really a symbiotic relationship.
It's helping local businesses especially, yeah.